This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Wednesday, November 27th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
U.S. trade partners respond to President-elect Donald Trump's promise of tariffs on day one in the White House.
This is a relationship that takes a certain amount of working on.
I'm Jim Roope.
Israel has approved a U.S. negotiated ceasefire with Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Good news report from the Middle East.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Rudy Giuliani accuses a judge of making wrong assumptions about him.
I don't have a credit card. I don't have a checking account.
Julie Walker, New York.
The Biden administration wants the government to pay for popular weight loss drugs, despite concerns the incoming Trump team may not be in favor.
On Wall Street, stocks had a win yesterday, and markets have a full day of trading today ahead of Thanksgiving. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Some schools telling their international students to be back in America before January 20th. All ahead on America in the Morning. China, Mexico, and Canada respond to President-elect Trump doubling down on imposing tariffs on goods from those countries on day one of his administration. The stage is set for a potential trade war, as we hear from correspondent Jim Roope.
Liu Pengyu, spokesman for the Chinese embassy, responded by saying no one will win a trade war or a tariff war, that economic and trade cooperation between the U.S. and China is mutually beneficial. Mr. Trump already imposed tariffs on China in his first administration and mentioned that during the campaign.
Do you know China, during my 4 years, paid us hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs and taxes? And they were fine with it.
And says he's going to add 10% more on his first day in the White House come January. Mexico is gearing up for a tariff war, with its president Claudia Sheinbaum saying she'll impose tariffs on her own on the U.S. in response to Mr. Trump promising a 25% tariff on Mexico.
No es aceptable.
She says tariffs are unacceptable and would cause U.S. and Mexico inflation and job losses. Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, says he spoke recently with Mr. Trump.
It was a good call. This is something that we can do, laying out the facts, moving forward in constructive ways. This is a relationship that we know takes a certain amount of working on, and that's what we'll do.
It's all about boosting border security and cracking down on fentanyl. Mr. Trump says those tariffs will remain until those countries do a better job of stopping people and drugs coming into this country illegally, something they say they're doing. Some economists are saying that the Trump tariffs will raise prices for U.S. consumers on everything from fruit and vegetables, beef and pork, even liquor, as Mexico and Canada are the top two suppliers of farm products to the U.S. Also electronics, clothing, cars, and more, because it's the American companies that pay the tariffs on the imported goods. That cost is typically passed on to you and me, the consumer. I'm Jim Roope.
A U.S.-led brokered ceasefire is now underway between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah terrorists, as approved by the Lebanese government. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports both nations and the Middle East remain on edge to see if the truce can hold.
Under the deal reached today, effective at 4 a.m., the fighting across the Lebanese-Israeli border will end. Will end. This is designed to be a permanent cessation of hostilities.
Israel has approved a U.S. negotiated ceasefire with Hezbollah in Lebanon, aimed at ending nearly 14 months of fighting linked to the Gaza war.
Today, I have some good news to report from the Middle East. I just spoke with the Prime Minister of Israel and Lebanon. I'm pleased to announce that their governments have accepted the United States proposal to end the devastating conflict between Israel and Hezbollah.
Hours after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his security cabinet signed off on the deal.
This is designed to be a permanent cessation of hostilities.
It would be the first major step toward ending regional unrest after Hamas's attack on Israel more than a year ago. President Biden hopes it can lead to a ceasefire in Gaza, too.
Over the coming days, the United States will make another push with Turkey, Egypt, Qatar, Israel, and others to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza. With the hostages released and the end of the war without Hamas in power, that becomes possible.
Still, in the hours leading up to the cabinet meeting, Israel carried out its most intense wave of attacks on the Lebanese capital and suburbs, signaling it aims to keep going after Hezbollah before any truce takes hold.
It will make a big difference in saving lives and livelihoods in Lebanon and in Israel. It will make a big difference in creating the conditions that will allow people to return to their homes safely in northern Israel and in southern Lebanon. And I also believe that by de-escalating tensions in the region, it can also help us to end the conflict in Gaza.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Today's top stories are brought to you by Sleep Number. And now, during our Black Friday sale, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed, plus free home delivery when you add a base. Ends Cyber Monday. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com. Biden's weight loss drug plea, when America in the Morning continues after these messages. We're back. This is America in the Morning. Thanks for listening. AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton is in with the all-important national weather forecast.
Look for thunderstorms to build mainly this afternoon as an area of low pressure starts to become better organized over the south-central states while dragging a cold front toward the southeastern U.S. Ahead of that feature, a warm front lifting northward over the southern states will bring in a late-season push of warmth and moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, resulting in thunderstorms that may turn severe late tonight from Louisiana and southeastern Arkansas across Mississippi and Alabama, possibly even reaching the Florida panhandle by daybreak. Storms will be able to produce intense downpours that may limit visibility for any overnight holiday travelers, along with strong winds and the chance for some tornadoes. For Thanksgiving itself, a similar risk then extends eastward along and ahead of the cold front from the New Orleans area north and east toward the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Outside of thunderstorms, the main story for much of today will be snow, as a disturbance over the Four Corners region brings rain showers to northern Arizona and New Mexico, but snow from the Wasatch Range of Utah into Colorado. Snow can be steady, even heavy at times for the western half or so of Colorado, with somewhat more sporadic snow for the northern and eastern zones, including the Denver area. Another zone with some risk for snow showers will be around the Great Lakes, where a favorable wind direction can contribute to snow from the eastern upper peninsula of Michigan to northern lower Michigan, as well as far southwestern and much of northern New York State. Watch for rain to develop from Kansas to western Ohio today, extending southward to northern Arkansas, with flurries for parts of the Dakotas and Minnesota. The west and east coasts both look mainly dry today. For New York, sunshine mixes with some clouds today with a high of 53. In Little Rock, Arkansas, a mostly cloudy and mild day gives way to some afternoon showers and a high of 67. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Rudy Giuliani was back in court Tuesday trying to shield some of his assets from the penalties in his defamation case. Correspondent Julie Walker reports the former New York City mayor lost both his attorneys in the courtroom and his cool after the hearing.
In an angry outburst in a New York courtroom, Rudy Giuliani accuses a judge of making wrong assumptions about him after ordering him to turn over most of his assets to two election poll workers who won a $148 million libel case against him.
It turned out exactly as I expected. He ruled against us on everything. Also, the trial he set down for the period of time during President Trump's inauguration, he really doesn't need to have it because he's going to rule against me. If you were sitting in that courtroom and couldn't figure it out, you're stupid.
Outside court, Giuliani doubled down on the judge.
His background is serious left-wing Democrat. Yes, he was appointed by Trump.
And says he's cash poor.
I have no cash. It's all tied up. So right now, if I wanted to call a taxi cab, I can't do it. I don't have a credit card. I don't have a checking account.
Federal Judge Louis Lyman said he's not going to let Giuliani blurt things out anymore unless he's a sworn witness. The judge also refusing to delay a January 16th trial over what happens to Giuliani's Florida residence and his World Series rings. Julie Walker, New York.
The Biden administration wants Medicare and Medicaid to cover popular weight loss drugs, purportedly for people struggling with obesity. Correspondent Donna Warder reports.
It's a costly proposal, and it sets the stage for a potential showdown between the powerful pharmaceutical industry and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., President-elect Donald Trump's nominee to lead the agency. Kennedy is an outspoken opponent of weight loss drugs. The proposed rule would give millions of people access to weekly injectables that have helped many people quickly shed pounds, but it could cost taxpayers $35 billion over the next decade. A bipartisan coalition of members of Congress has been lobbying that weight loss drugs be covered by Medicare, saying it could save the government from spending billions of dollars on treating chronic ailments that stem from obesity. Donna Warder, Washington.
On this heightened travel day, when we return on America in the Morning, airlines rake in billions from tack-on fees. After these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. With the Wednesday Report, here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a winning day yesterday for stocks. The Dow and the S&P 500 index open at fresh record highs this morning on the ceasefire in the Middle East and Fed confidence that inflation's easing and the labor market is strong. Airlines busy with holiday travel right now, but next week, some of the airline's top executives have to be in Washington, D.C. for a Senate panel grilling on what are called junk seat fees, charging people to sit by a window or a little farther up in the same section they paid for.
A Senate panel report that did say airlines between 2018 and 2023, they've brought in more than $12 billion with a B dollars from seating fees. So, sometimes extra legroom will cost you over $100 more, especially if it's a long flight. And for United alone, last year they brought in more money from seating fees than they did from checked bags.
CNBC aviation reporter Leslie Josephs. President-elect Trump promises to impose an additional 10% tariff on goods coming into the U.S. from China, 25% tariffs on anything coming from Canada and Mexico on day one of his presidency.
Canada. Okay, see, Canada, we have a great trading partner. And no one thinks that it's anything else. And then Canada gets slapped on the same thing as Mexico. And I puzzle over it because I think that one is about people coming to the country that he doesn't want, and the other's about
fentanyl? What?
Canada's not really known as a bastion of fentanyl. Right. I mean, we have a lot of cities in this country that take fentanyl, but it's not from Canada.
CNBC Mad Money host Jim Cramer. NBC negotiating a new deal to keep broadcasting the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, writes it's held since 1953. The Wall Street Journal says the price may go from $20 million a year to $60 million to keep the parade on NBC and its streaming service, Peacock. Thanksgiving Eve could set the record for most flyers ever going through U.S. airports in a single day. We're not really going to know until we get post-holiday TSA data, but Frontier's CEO is confident they're ready.
Huge demand. The holidays are the biggest we've ever seen. And people are headed to Florida, they're headed to the Caribbean, and then they're even headed to Colorado to go snow skiing. So I think it looks like it's going to be a big weekend. A little bit of weather out there, so make sure folks show up early and obviously pack that patience for the TSA lines.
Frontier Airlines CEO Barry Biffle on CNBC. On today's watch list, no earnings are coming. Markets will be closed tomorrow, but we've got a full day of trading today. And balloons are being blown up tonight for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade tomorrow morning.
Well, rain is expected. CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with a look at Wednesday business. When our show continues, we may soon find out if kids can live without social media. America in the Morning, back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. At least 3 universities, including Boston's MIT, are telling their international students to make sure they arrive in the U.S. before January 20th for the spring semester. Some schools are concerned that President-elect Trump could impose an executive order blocking foreign students from some countries to return to America. The schools fear a repeat of 2017, when then-President Trump signed an executive order barring immigrants and non-immigrant travelers from 7 majority Muslim nations from entering the U.S. for 90 days. Shifting gears, imagine some high schoolers unable to have any access to TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Australian lawmakers are deciding on a bill that would ban young children from social media. Correspondent Norman Hall reports.
Australia's House of Representatives has passed a bill that would ban children younger than 16 years old from social media, leaving it to the Senate to finalize the world-first law. The bill would make platforms including TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, Reddit, X, and Instagram liable for fines of up to 50 million Australian dollars for systematic failures to prevent young children from holding accounts. If it becomes law this week, the platforms would have 1 year to work out how to implement the age restrictions before the penalties are enforced. Critics argue the ban would isolate children, drive some to the dark web, or make children too young for social media reluctant to report harms they encountered. I'm Norman Hall.
America in the Morning for Wednesday, November 27th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour,
President-elect Trump is threatening sweeping new tariffs on the 3 biggest suppliers of goods to America. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
President-elect Trump's incoming border czar visits the Texas border amidst threats to jail the mayor of Denver. I'm John Stolness in Washington.
The TSA expects to screen some 18.3 million people at U.S. airports between today and next Monday. I'm Donna Warder.
A transition deal done between Donald Trump and President Biden, an FBI agent busted, and a new look at the John Benet Ramsey murder case.
The Onion's purchase of Alex Jones' InfoWars still in limbo. I'm Pamela Furr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning, and on this, one of the busiest travel days of the year, AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton has our national forecast.
By far, the most difficult travel conditions and even the toughest weather for navigating any last-minute holiday shopping will be centered around Colorado today, where a snow event will continue as another wave of energy feeds into a persistent storm over the Rockies. Much of the state of Colorado stands at least some chance for snowflakes in the air at some point during the day, with some heavy snow most likely for southwestern parts of the state. Most of the substantial snow stays to the south and west of Denver today, but storm total snowfall should turn out around 1 to 3 inches downtown through tonight, with the highest totals of 12 to 18 inches over the highest peaks in the Rockies as snow winds down through the day and evening. Other travel hotspots through the daylight hours will include parts of the Central Plains, Midwest, and South, where a rapidly developing disturbance will organize some areas of rain from Kansas to perhaps far western Ohio and areas south and west to Arkansas, where there can even be some thunderstorms from the southern part of the state through Louisiana and southern Mississippi. There can be some snow showers off of Lakes Erie and Ontario as well. For anyone traveling later tonight, thunderstorms can then turn severe from Louisiana through Mississippi and much of Alabama, perhaps even the western Florida panhandle as well, bringing the risk for damaging wind gusts and even some tornadoes through the night before the threat then shifts eastward and closer to the coast for the Thanksgiving holiday itself. The blossoming storm also spreads a large zone of steadier rain through the Tennessee and Ohio valleys and into the mid-Atlantic tonight, with steady rain reaching places such as the nation's capital by sunrise on Thanksgiving, with some snow also expected to develop from central Illinois across southern New York. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
I'm John Trout. Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The Chinese, Mexican, and Canadian governments are responding to a Donald Trump tariff threat, with each country signaling they will not stand by and let it happen without retaliatory tariffs slapped back on goods from the United States. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports there was outrage on the floor of Canada's Parliament, audio courtesy Canada's CTV.
Donald Trump's threats of tariffs could threaten hundreds of thousands of Canadian mortgage-paying jobs. The only thing a bully responds to is strength. So where is our plan to fight back?
President Trump made an unjustified threat of a 25% tariff on our already weak and shrinking economy.
President-elect Trump is threatening sweeping new tariffs on the three biggest suppliers of goods to America.
We obviously talked about laying out the facts, talking about how the intense and effective connections between our two countries flow back and forth. We talked about some of the challenges that we can work on together. It was a good call.
Trump says one of his first executive orders on taking office would be imposing a 25% tax on all products from Canada and Mexico, and an additional 10% on goods from China.
We're going to be a tariff nation. It's not going to be a cost to you. It's going to be a cost to another country. I heard Kamala the other day, Comrade Kamala, she said, oh, if you do that, he's raising your taxes. No, no, no. I'm not raising your taxes. I'm raising China. And all of these countries in Asia and all over the world, including the European Union, by the way, which is one of the most egregious.
It's part of his bid to crack down on illegal immigration and drugs, but it's unclear just how serious Trump's threat is. The tariffs could dramatically boost prices for Americans on everything from gas to vehicles. Mexico's president suggests she would retaliate with her own tariffs on U.S. goods, and a U.S.-Mexico-Canada free trade deal forbids any member from just imposing tariffs on another. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
President-elect Donald Trump's border czar says he will jail any public official who does not obey laws concerning illegal immigration during a trip to the Texas border. More on the story from America in the Morning's John Stolness.
Tom Homan will serve as the point man for Trump's border policies, and during a visit with Texas Governor Greg Abbott in Eagle Pass, warned those who plan to skirt the incoming administration's efforts to enforce immigration laws.
And I'm sending a message for the people that said they're going to get in our way. They're going to stop us from doing what we're doing in an interior enforcement operation. I've said it 100 times in the last week. Don't cross that line. It's a felony to knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from immigration authorities. Don't test us.
Specifically, Homan threatened to jail Denver, Colorado Mayor Mike Johnston after Johnston said he'd be willing to go to jail to stop the mass deportation promised by Trump and his incoming team.
You're absolutely breaking law. All you have to do is look at Arizona versus U.S. You'll see these breaking law. But look, me and the Denver mayor, we agree on one thing. He's willing to go to jail. I'm willing to put him in jail.
Homan making those comments on Fox News. Governor Abbott has been at the forefront of the border crisis and told National Guard members he was visiting to expect more help from the Trump administration.
Some good news, there's help on the way. Help unlike what any of you all have ever seen before. The cavalry is here.
The state's land commissioner is promising Trump and Homan more land to be used to develop mass deportation facilities. Homan is promising Texans things will be different with them in office.
We've had enough crime in this country, illegal alien crime. It's time to end it and stop it. President Trump's committed to it. He's committed to securing this border. He's committed to having this mass deportation operation and concentrating on public safety threats and national security threats.
Meanwhile, farm groups in the U.S. are urging Trump to spare their workers from being included in the expected mass deportation. The Labor and Agriculture departments say about half of the 2 million farm workers in the U.S. are not legal residents. Homan and Trump have said their focus will be on deporting criminals primarily, but are not ruling out enforcement against some businesses, too. I'm John Stolness.
Despite, for many, an ideal weather forecast and the knowledge that travel records are very likely to be set, some 80 million Americans are beginning the journey to their Thanksgiving destination. Correspondent Donna Warder reports that the roads, rails, and airports are expected to be packed for the next several days.
People are finally putting the pandemic behind them, and I think this is the first holiday season where it kind of feels normal. So I mean, as normal as it could be.
Brittany Hankins, who was flying from Fort Worth, Texas to Tampa, Florida, said she was getting to her family gathering this year.
2020 on to now, this is one of the first time that my family hasn't had a family reunion. We haven't spent holidays together, so yeah, it's important to us. I'm excited to be able to see them because my great-grandpa is going to be 85 this year.
The FAA warns that there may be some travel delays because of an ongoing shortage of air traffic controllers.
TSA has to be right every single time. The person who wants to disrupt the system has to be right once. And that's why our officers take that extra step to make sure that even foods don't pose a security threat. You would be surprised the things that we come across and the types of things people try to get through the security checkpoint thinking that we won't catch it.
But most holiday travelers are getting there by car. The National Weather Service has issued a winter storm warning in Sierra Nevada that's expected to last through today. And forecasters say the East Coast will be the most impacted on Thanksgiving and Black Friday, with snowfall possible in parts of New Hampshire, northern Maine, and the Adirondacks. I'm Donna Warder.
When our program continues, a Missouri judge rules on assignment surgery. Trump's resounding battleground states wins. Those stories and more when America in the Morning returns after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. Following negotiations, a transition agreement with the Biden White House has been signed by President-elect Donald Trump. Correspondent Norman Hall has details.
After a delay, President-elect Donald Trump reached a required agreement with President Joe Biden's White House to allow the Trump transition staff to coordinate with the existing federal workforce before taking office on January 20th. The congressionally mandated agreement allows transition aides to work with federal agencies and access non-public information. But Trump declined to sign a separate agreement with the General Services Administration that would have given his team access to secure government offices and email accounts, in part because it would require that the president-elect limit contributions to $5,000 and reveal who is donating to his transition effort. The White House says as part of the agreement, Trump's team will have to publicly disclose its ethics plan for the transition operation and make a commitment to uphold it. I'm Norman Hall.
An FBI agent finds himself on the wrong side of the law, arrested for the rape of 2 women outside of Washington, D.C. Correspondent Julie Walker reports that police are asking for the public's help to find out if there are more victims that have not come forward.
FBI agent Eduardo Valdivia under arrest in Maryland, accused of raping 2 women he met after promising free tattoos for modeling through DC Fine Line Tattoos on Instagram. Montgomery County Police Assistant Chief Nicholas Augustine says there could be more victims.
During the photo shoot, the victim was sexually assaulted by Valdivia. After this assault, the victim was coerced and threatened with legal action if she did not return to comply with the contract.
Police say the women did not know Valdivia was FBI. He used aliases, including Laylo Brown and Al Boogie.
We want the community to know that no matter if you sign a contract, that does not allow for you to be sexually assaulted.
Previously, Valdivia was acquitted of attempted murder for shooting a man on a D.C. metro in 2020. I'm Julie Walker.
As the 2024 election remains in focus, especially how Donald Trump made gains in key demographics that sealed his victory, the numbers are still being reviewed as we hear from the AP's Jennifer King.
Look what happened. Is this crazy?
Support for Donald Trump has grown since he last sought the presidency. According to an Associated Press analysis, in 2024, Trump got 2.5 million more votes than he did 4 years ago, even with a lower voter turnout. And the president-elect won a bigger percentage of the vote in each of the 50 states and Washington, D.C.
This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before.
Kamala Harris received 7 million fewer votes than Joe Biden did in 2020. Trump cut into the vote total in urban urban swing state counties that have been traditional Democratic strongholds, like Detroit, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia. A nationwide survey by AP Votecast found that Trump won a larger share of Black and Latino voters than he did in 2020, most notably among men under age 45. James Blair, Trump's political director, knew from their data that Trump was making inroads. That was supported when he saw the results coming in from Philadelphia on election night. Jennifer King, Washington.
A Missouri judge says a new law banning surgery and medications for transgender minors is constitutional. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer has details.
A Missouri court has upheld a new state law that bans some gender-affirming health care for minors, as a multitude of lawsuits against similar bans in other states continue to play out. Republican Attorney General Andrew Bailey says that Missouri is the first state in the nation to successfully defend such a law at the trial court level. Every major medical organization, including the American Medical Association, has opposed the bans on gender-affirming care for minors and supported medical care for youth when administered appropriately. Lambda Legal and the ACLU of Missouri, which are representing the plaintiffs who sued to overturn that new law, say they will appeal the ruling. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Electric vehicle manufacturer Rivian has received conditional approval of a $6.6 billion loan to build a new factory in Georgia. Chuck Palm has that in today's Tech Report.
Electric vehicle manufacturer Rivian is set to receive a $6.6 billion loan from the U.S. government. The conditional approval has come from Democrats scrambling to finalize their policies before Trump takes office. The U.S. Department of Energy will loan Rivian the money needed to build an electric vehicle factory in Georgia after the company put their plans on hold earlier this year. Rivian has been hemorrhaging money since 2021, including $1.1 billion this past quarter. President Biden had resurrected the Advanced Technology Vehicle Manufacturing Loan Program in 2022, ahead of Trump's promise to reverse much of the spending on EVs once he assumes office. Rivian has also closed on a deal for $5.8 billion, a commitment from Volkswagen to create a new joint venture. Rivian said the operations in the new factory would begin in 2028 and would employ 7,500 workers at the facility 45 miles north of Atlanta. Follow me on X at Chuck Palm.
Wednesday Sports is in. Here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
Baseball's first big free agent signing came last night, and the rich just keep getting richer. The World Series champion LA Dodgers signed lefty Blake Snell to a 5-year deal worth $182 million, according to The Athletic. That includes a $52 million signing bonus and some deferred money, but no opt-outs for the two-time Cy Young winner, who shook off an injury-plagued first half of last season with the Giants to dominate down the stretch, posting a 1.23 ERA in his last 14 starts. That included a no-hitter in Cincinnati, his first career complete game. The top of the new college football playoff poll looks just like last week's. Undefeated Oregon is on top, followed by Ohio State, Texas, and Penn State, and the 4 bye teams are the same, the Ducks and the Longhorns, along with Miami and Boise State. One last round of regular season games this week, then it's the conference title games next weekend before the final bracket is set. NBA Cup group play, Rockets turn back the Timberwolves 117-111 in overtime, clinching West Group A and a spot in the quarterfinals. Bucks edged the Heat. Damian Lillard had 37 points. Spurs got 34 from Victor Wembanyama as they pulled away from the Jazz.
For sure, more confident. I wouldn't say we were not confident last year, but now we're maybe more knowledge on the court.
Also wins for the Suns and the Bulls. College basketball, number 1 Kansas held off number 11 Duke in Las Vegas. 9th-ranked Alabama upset number 6 Houston in overtime. At the Maui Invitational, 2nd-ranked Connecticut dropped its second straight game, falling by a point to Colorado. Wins for number 4 Auburn and 5th-ranked Iowa State. That's Wednesday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. When we return on America in the Morning, The Onion gets a whiff of musk after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. There is new interest in the JonBenet Ramsey murder case thanks to Netflix. Kevin Carr reports.
By focusing on decades-old murders, Netflix true crime docuseries and dramas have resulted in a fresh look at some cases. For example, the Menendez murders from 1989 have been given a new look after content about them topped the streamer's watch list. Now the family of JonBenet Ramsey hopes this will help find their daughter's murderer. Joe Berlinger, the director of Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes, has made the 3-episode series Cold Case Who Killed JonBenet Ramsey for Netflix, which dropped on Monday.
It was a case that people couldn't stop talking about. Some people don't think it's ever going to be solved.
This has given 80-year-old John Ramsey, the victim's father, some hope. He has vowed to solve the case before he dies, he explained to the Today Show last week.
I believe it can be solved if the police accept help, and hopefully there's someone who knows something that would come forward.
Ramsey blames the Boulder Police Department for contaminating the crime scene and not doing its job properly, and he hopes that new technology will help find the killer.
Keep pressure on the police to do their job. And there's been some horrible failures in that space for the last 25 years.
Ramsey is looking to get new DNA testing on the 28-year-old murderer of his daughter, who would have turned 34 this year. Berlinger explained why new DNA testing should be done.
DNA technology was very different back then. The DNA was very flawed. There's specific things that can be done. Old items that were tested need to be retested.
I'm Kevin Carr.
The Onion's purchase of Alex Jones' InfoWars brand remains on hold. The reason? Elon Musk. Pamela Furr has details.
Earlier in the week, a judge set a hearing for December on the satirical news website's purchase of Jones Media Company. Meanwhile, in an interesting turn, Elon Musk's social media site X, in a court filing on Monday, says its users don't actually own their accounts, so therefore those accounts can't be sold or transferred to a third party without X's permission. So even if the Onion were allowed to buy the website, the social media account would still belong to X. You may recall the Onion, with help from Sandy Hook families, bought InfoWars at a bankruptcy auction after Jones was ordered to pay more than $1 billion in damages for claiming the Sandy Hook mass shooting was a hoax. The sale includes the InfoWars website, product inventory, customer lists, social media accounts, and intellectual property, but a judge halted the sale to review it. I'm Pamela Furr.
America in the Morning for Wednesday, November 27th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Our senior producer, Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.